With the name of Allah, the most gracious, the merciful. Behind the rocky mountains of Mecca, slightly beyond the lush green valley of Taif, there was a tribe called Banu Sa'd. This ancient Arab tribe was famous in Hijaz for their eloquent speech, wisdom, and sweet language. They not only spoke pure Arabic but also taught it. Because of this skill, wealthy citizens of Arabia used to entrust their children to the women of this tribe for a specific period, so they could receive mental and physical training and learn pure Arabic. These women would visit the city twice a year to take newborns with them for a suitable fee. Among these women was a respected lady, Hazrat Haleema Sadia, who was honored to nurse and care for the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, during his infancy for 2 years. Hazrat Haleema Sadia narrates that during those days, their region was suffering from severe drought and famine. It was a scorching hot day in May when a group of women from their tribe set out for Mecca to find newborns. She was part of this group, riding her weak and slow donkey. Her husband Harith, her breastfeeding son Abdullah, and their frail camel accompanied her. Due to her donkey's weakness, she lagged behind the rest of the women, who reached Mecca before her. Upon arrival, the women were taken to the house of Abdul Muttalib, the custodian of the Kaaba and the leader of Mecca. However, when they found out that the child they were offered was an orphan, they refused to take him, fearing they would not receive adequate rewards. By the time Hazrat Haleema arrived in Mecca, all the other women had already taken children. She told her husband that she couldn't bear to return empty-handed. Following her husband's advice, she decided to take the orphan child to avoid being mocked for returning without a child. Hazrat Haleema recalls that when she picked up the orphan child and brought him to her tent, she noticed her dry breasts were suddenly filled with milk. Her own son, who used to cry constantly from hunger, drank his fill of milk, as did the Prophet, PBUH, and still, the milk did not run out. Her husband noticed their camel's dried-up udder was now full of milk as well. On their journey back, the same donkey that had lagged behind earlier surprised everyone with its speed, leaving others amazed and envious. When they reached home, blessings seemed to pour into their household. Though the entire region was drought-stricken and people were struggling, her family had plenty of milk and fodder, and they were prosperous. They constantly thanked Allah for these blessings. After 2 years, Hazrat Haleema weaned the Prophet, peace be upon him. Due to his strong build, he appeared to be 4 years old. They returned him to his mother, Hazrat Amina, but because of the illnesses spreading in Mecca, Hazrat Haleema insisted on taking him back. During this time, an extraordinary event occurred when the Prophet, peace be upon him, was 4 or 5 years old. One day, while playing near their home with his foster siblings, Angel Jibreel, appeared. He laid the Prophet, peace be upon him, down, opened his chest, removed his heart, washed it with Zamzam water in a golden bowl, and placed it back, closing his chest. When his foster siblings saw this, they ran home crying and told their mother that the Prophet, peace be upon him, had been harmed. Hazrat Haleema and her husband rushed to him and found him safe, though he looked pale. Shortly after this incident, 2 Jewish priests came to Hazrat Haleema and asked detailed questions about the child. One of them asked, "Is this child an orphan?" Sensing danger, Hazrat Haleema quickly replied, "No," pointing to her husband and saying, "This is his father, and I am his mother." The priest said, "If he were an orphan, we would have killed him." Hazrat Haleema also noticed a small cloud always shading the Prophet, peace be upon him. When the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, stopped, the cloud also stopped, and when he moved, the cloud moved with him. These miraculous signs made Hazrat Haleema fearful, so she returned him to his mother for his protection. At that time, he was 5 years old. When the Prophet, peace be upon him, had grown and married Hazrat Khadija, Hazrat Haleema visited him. The Prophet, peace be upon him, was very pleased to see her, showed great respect, and introduced her to Hazrat Khadija. Observing her poor condition, he inquired about her circumstances. Hazrat Haleema mentioned the drought and the loss of her livestock. Upon hearing this, Hazrat Khadija gifted Hazrat Haleema 40 goats and a camel for transport, loaded with provisions. Hazrat Haleema returned home with these gifts. One day, while the Prophet, peace be upon him, was speaking with his companions in Masjid Nabawi, someone announced that an elderly woman had come to meet him. The Prophet, peace be upon him, allowed her to enter. As soon as he saw her, he quickly stood up, exclaiming, "My mother! My mother!" He embraced her warmly, spread his cloak for her to sit on, and treated her with great honor and hospitality. He sent her off with many gifts and stood at the door, watching until her ride disappeared from sight. When the companions asked who she was, the Prophet, peace be upon him, replied, "This is my foster mother who nursed me for 2 years and in whose home I stayed until I was 5. The news of the Prophet's, peace be upon him, prophethood reached the Banu Sa'd tribe. Hazrat Halima was overjoyed and recalled the events from the time he was in her care. She said, "I always believed that the blessed child I nurtured was a special servant of Allah and destined for a great role. The child, who brought blessings from the moment he was born, was surely meant to be a mercy for the universe. Praise be to Allah that my belief has come true, and Allah has raised my dear foster child to the highest station." Hazrat Halima continued, "I have heard about his honor from others, but I cannot wait any longer. I will not rest until I visit him and accept his religion." She, along with her children and husband, went to the Prophet, peace be upon him, and embraced Islam. Among those who accepted Islam was her daughter, Hazrat Shema. Historians write that when Hazrat Halima's husband, Harith, came with his family to visit the Prophet, peace be upon him, in Mecca, the Quraysh asked him, "Do you know what your son says?" Harith asked, "What does he say?" The disbelievers replied, "He insults our gods and talks about one God, paradise, and hell. He has divided us and created discord." Harith went to the Prophet, peace be upon him, and asked, "My son, is what your people complain about true?" The Prophet, peace be upon him, replied, "Not only is it true, but on the day of judgment, you will see it for yourself." This conversation had such an impact on Harith that he immediately recited the Shahidah and began spreading Islam. Out of respect for the sacred bond with his foster mother, Hazrat Halima, the Prophet, peace be upon him, released 6,000 captives from the Banu Hawazin tribe during the Battle of Hunain and returned a large amount of war booty. These captives were relatives of Hazrat Halima, and thus also foster relatives of the Prophet, peace be upon him. Hazrat Haleema Sadia passed away in 9 630 CE, in Medina. She was buried in Jannatul Baqi. Her story is a profound reminder of how Allah's blessings can transform lives and of the deep bonds formed through love, care, and sacrifice. From her initial decision to take the orphan child, to witnessing extraordinary miracles and receiving the Prophet's lifelong respect and generosity, Hazrat Halima, R.A.'s life is a testament to her unwavering faith and devotion. Her care for the Prophet, PBUH, not only brought blessings to her household but also established a connection that was cherished and honored by him until his final days. Let us reflect on these timeless lessons of compassion, humility, and gratitude. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more inspiring stories from Islamic history. Join us in our mission to share knowledge and strengthen our faith together. Until next time, may Allah's blessings be with you.